Tyree is literally falling into the room as he's being shot. He was shot 16 times.
It's Daddy.
Yes.
Who's that right there? Who's that?
That's
It's
Ty
Daddy.
walking
Huh?
to
It's Daddy.
Dunkirk, Calvert County, Maryland, a quiet suburban area located about 30 miles south of Washington, D.C. It is known for its secluded residential neighborhoods, tree-lined streets, and slow pace of life. The victim was 20-year-old Tyree Richardson, a resident of neighboring Prince George's County. At a very young age, Tyree was known as a multi-talented and dynamic young man. He pursued his passion for music under the rapper name FSO Gunk, while simultaneously owning and operating a food truck business that served the local community. Despite his youth, Tyree was already the father of a young boy, the result of a years-long romantic relationship with his ex-girlfriend, Autumn Anderson. The primary suspect in the case was 22-year-old Terrence Kenneth Yancey, also known as Trey. Terrence lived in Maryland and was in a secret romantic relationship with Autumn Anderson, while her relationship with Tyree was breaking down. In the early morning hours of June 13, 2022, as darkness blanketed the stillness of the home in Dunkirk, the simultaneous presence of these individuals transformed the peaceful suburban house into the focal point of a fierce tragedy. In the early morning of June 13, 2022, as the clock slowly ticked toward 3:28 a.m., the darkness outside the two-story home in Dunkirk was submerged in absolute silence. Inside the second-floor primary bedroom, Terrence Yancey was lying in bed with Autumn Anderson. He had a semi-automatic handgun stashed within arm's reach. The presence of the gun in a family bedroom was no coincidence, but rather preparation for a bloody scenario. At the same time, Tyree Richardson's car slowly pulled up to the curb. Without a trace of suspicion, Tyree walked up to the front door, gently pressing each digit on the electronic keypad, a password he had long memorized. The door popped open. Tyree carefully took off his shoes and placed them neatly at the entrance, a familiar habit just like returning to his own home. He silently walked step by step up the stairs leading to the second-floor bedroom, completely unaware that he was walking straight into a preset ambush. At exactly 3:30 a.m., Tyree gently pushed open the bedroom door and walked in. The moment Tyree's silhouette appeared at the threshold, Terrence Yancey immediately bolted upright. In the dim darkness, Yancey issued no warning, nor was there any prior argument or physical altercation. He aimed the semi-automatic handgun directly at Tyree and continuously pulled the trigger. The night was shattered by a series of deafening explosions. Yancey fired ruthlessly and rapidly. Tyree was jolted forward, caught entirely off guard without a single second to react or any opportunity to draw a weapon to defend himself. Struck by bullets from the very first shots, Tyree collapsed onto the floor. Not stopping there, Yancey continued to unload the entire magazine into the victim, lying motionless. A total of 16 rounds were fired at close range. 12 bullets lodged deep in his back, 2 pierced his neck, and 2 hit his head directly. The sound of gunfire tore through the bedroom, taking the victim's life in just a few short seconds. When the final gunshot ceased, acrid gun smoke engulfed the room. Tyree lay collapsed in a sea of blood, while Yancey stood there with the gun in his hand, coldly watching the victim draw his final breath. As soon as the deafening gunshots died down, the quiet space of the Dunkirk neighborhood was shattered by panicked screams. At around 3:31 a.m., an emergency call was placed to 911 from inside the house. Autumn Anderson, who witnessed the entire event, along with relatives present at the scene, frantically reported the crime. Over the hotline, a broken voice reported that a young man had just been shot down inside the bedroom and was non-responsive. The consecutive gunshots in the early morning also woke up neighboring residents in shock, with many opening their doors to look out at the street upon hearing screams tearing through the night. Upon receiving the report of a severe shooting, dispatchers immediately issued an emergency response order. When information about the shooting reached the Calvert County Sheriff's Office in the early morning of June 13, 2022, deputies were immediately dispatched to the Dunkirk address. What they knew on their way to the scene was very limited. Someone had been shot inside the home, and the person believed to have opened fire was no longer there. The first units to approach the home had to handle the situation as a high-risk scene. Before the investigation could begin, their priority was checking for threats, securing the safety of those remaining inside, and enabling emergency medical personnel to reach the victim. On the upper floor of the home, Tyree Richardson was found in the bedroom with multiple gunshot wounds. Signs at the scene quickly indicated that this was an exceptionally severe incident. The bedroom area became the primary focus to be secured in order to prevent any disturbance that could affect the evidence. The house was subsequently secured. Entry and exit were restricted while deputies began identifying each person present at the address, taking initial statements, and preserving relevant areas for investigators to process later. However, police faced another urgent issue. Terrence Kenneth Yancey, identified as the suspect in the shooting, was no longer in the house. That immediately expanded the scope of operations beyond the crime scene. In the darkness of the early morning hours, law enforcement officers began focusing on the surrounding area to search for Yancey, while the room where Richardson was discovered was held intact for the upcoming forensic examination. Forensic examination teams and crime scene technicians from the Calvert County Sheriff's Office immediately initiated evidence collection protocols in accordance with judicial standards. The entire property was meticulously cordoned off. At the main entrance, technicians noted that the smart lock system showed no signs of forced entry or tampering. The victim's shoes were found right next to the door, perfectly matching the natural movement of someone with authorized access to the home. In the second-floor bedroom area, authorities marked and recovered over 300 pieces of physical evidence. A total of 16 shell casings, along with multiple deformed bullet fragments, were found scattered across the floor and embedded in the walls. Based on blood spatter analysis and bullet trajectories, experts reconstructed positions showing the victim was standing near the doorway when struck, while the firing direction originated from the corner of the bedroom. The autopsy results, performed by the medical examiner's office, determined Tyree Richardson's cause of death to be acute blood loss due to multiple gunshot wounds. The victim was hit a total of 16 times. Notably, forensic analysis logged 12 bullet wounds concentrated in the back, 2 bullet wounds in the neck area, and 2 bullet wounds directly to the head. The penetration trajectories confirmed the victim was struck from behind and from the side. The time of death was determined to be between 3:28 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. on June 13, 2022. These technical findings concluded the scene processing phase, opening a critical turning point in the hunt for the suspect. Immediately after completing the crime scene examination, investigators with the Calvert County Sheriff's Office set out to analyze all available data to reconstruct the sequence of events and identify the perpetrator. Initially, police established several working hypotheses, including the possibility of a botched burglary or a targeted attack stemming from an external conflict. However, these hypotheses were quickly ruled out. Data from the smart door lock system showed the access code was entered correctly at 3:28 a.m. without any sign of forced entry. Combined with the fact that valuable property inside the house was left undisturbed, investigators determined the victim had entered the house voluntarily and the shooter had to be someone already inside. The focus of the investigation immediately shifted to the personal relationships of those present at the scene. Through initial interviews, police uncovered a complex love triangle involving the victim, Tyree Richardson, his ex-girlfriend Autumn Anderson, and another man, 22-year-old Terrence Kenneth Yancey, also known as Trey. Investigators proceeded to gather and analyze digital data, including message histories, call logs, and mobile location data of the involved parties. Data retrieval revealed that prior to the crime, Tyree had exchanged messages with Autumn about stopping by the house to visit his son. Simultaneously, cell tower data confirmed that Terrence Yancey was also located at the coordinates of the Dunkirk home. If you find this case worthy of wider awareness, please share the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Initial statements from witnesses inside the home contained several unexpected details. During interviews, Yancey's presence in the bedroom during the early morning hours was gradually clarified. However, investigators noted movement traces at the scene along with witness confirmation that Yancey had vanished immediately after the gunfire ceased, leaving behind a chaotic scene. To solidify the direction of the investigation, police continued pulling security camera footage from neighboring residents along the Dunkirk street. Images recorded around the time after 3:30 a.m. showed the silhouette of a man fleeing from the back of the house and quickly disappearing into the dark surrounding woods. The physical description of the individual in the clip matched the descriptions of Terrence Yancey. From physical evidence, telecommunications data, and gathered footage, the investigative agency reached a firm conclusion. Terrence Kenneth Yancey was the direct suspect who fired the shots that killed the victim. An emergency arrest warrant was immediately issued region-wide. While the home in Dunkirk remained secured for forensic processing, the Calvert County Sheriff's Office deployed forces to track down Terrence Kenneth Yancey. Initial information indicated that Yancey had left the home and headed toward the nearby wooded area, expanding the search into terrain outside the residential neighborhood. Deputies established a perimeter and brought in the canine unit to assist. Under cover of darkness, police dogs were used to track Yancey's scent from the scene toward the woods. The search was conducted with caution, as authorities were hunting an individual involved in a shooting, while the location of the firearm used remained unconfirmed. The search ultimately led law enforcement to Yancey's hiding spot. According to information released by the Calvert County Sheriff's Office after the incident, Yancey was located in the wooded area near the scene and taken into custody. Authorities reported no shootout or casualties during the suspect's apprehension. Once secured, Yancey was removed from the search area and moved into the criminal justice process. In just a short period since deputies received the initial call, the man sought by police was under law enforcement custody. Yancey's capture ended the outdoor search, but it did not mean the case was solved. From this point on, the focus shifted to what Yancey would tell investigators and whether his explanation would align with the collected evidence. Inside the interrogation room at the Calvert County Sheriff's Office, Terrence Yancey sat under harsh lighting, facing seasoned investigators. Initially, Yancey acted evasive and maintained a defensive posture. When questioned about his motive for shooting, he offered a self-defense argument claiming, "I was startled. I saw someone suddenly charge into the bedroom, so I only fired in self-defense." However, investigators quickly applied evidence-based interrogation tactics, laying out indisputable technical data. They calmly presented the autopsy results and drilled into the core contradiction. If it was self-defense in a sudden situation, why were 12 out of the 16 total shots fired directly into the victim's back while he had his back turned to you? Faced with such a weighty question and forensic evidence that shattered his self-defense claim, Yancey fumbled, his statement became contradictory, and he fell silent. The suspect could not explain unloading a full magazine into a person who was completely defenseless. Following the filing of charges against Terrence Kenneth Yancey, the task for investigators and the Calvert County State's Attorney's Office was to turn the information gathered in the early hours into a case that could hold up in court. The focus was not on a single piece of evidence, but on how multiple independent streams of evidence corroborated one another. First was the crime scene inside the Dunkirk home. Ballistic evidence was logged and collected to determine the number of shots fired and the location of the incident. Autopsy results and wound characteristics provided additional data for experts to evaluate the firing trajectory and Richardson's relative position when struck. This was a critical body of physical evidence because it existed independently of any witness testimony. The second group of evidence came from individuals inside the home. Witness statements helped investigators establish a timeline, identify who was present, and clarify the circumstances immediately preceding and following the use of the firearm. This information was subsequently cross-referenced with forensic findings and physical scene evidence. Additionally, actions related to the disposal of the firearm following the incident became part of the record, forming the basis for prosecutors to bring additional charges regarding the destruction or concealment of evidence. On June 16, 2022, a Calvert County grand jury indicted Yancey on multiple charges, including murder, assault, and weapons-related offenses. From the moment the indictment was issued, the case entered an entirely new phase. The evidence collected in Dunkirk would now face public scrutiny before a jury. In April 2023, Terrence Kenneth Yancey stood trial in the Circuit Court for Calvert County. Nearly a year after Tyree Richardson's death, the legal question before the jury was no longer who had fired the weapon. The core issue was whether Yancey's actions were protected under Maryland self-defense laws or constituted a criminal offense. Over the course of the week-long trial, prosecution and defense attorneys presented contrasting interpretations of the confrontation. The defense argued that Yancey acted out of a belief that he was in danger. Prosecutors rejected that characterization and asked the jury to evaluate the full circumstances of the shooting to determine whether the use of force was genuinely justified under the law. On April 21, 2023, after hearing the evidence and arguments from both sides, the jury reached a verdict. Yancey was not convicted of murder as originally charged. Instead, he was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter, along with use of a firearm in the commission of a crime of violence, reckless endangerment, and destruction of evidence. 3 months later, on July 28, 2023, Yancey returned to the courtroom for sentencing by Judge Mark S. Chandley. After considering the jury's verdict and relevant sentencing factors, the court ordered Terrence Kenneth Yancey to serve a total of 18 years in prison. With that sentence, the trial-level proceedings came to a close. But for Tyree Richardson's family, a criminal conviction could not bring the 20-year-old back. The 18-year prison sentence handed down to Terrence Yancey sparked a wave of intense public reaction in Maryland and across social media platforms. Tyree Richardson's family and loved ones expressed deep outrage and disappointment over the court's decision. Tyree's mother and family publicly voiced that an 18-year sentence was far too lenient for someone who had coldly fired 16 shots to take the life of a 20-year-old man. Public indignation grew further as questions focused on Autumn Anderson, the ex-girlfriend present at the scene. Autumn's appearances on social media platforms offering inconsistent explanations met with fierce public criticism. Many felt that the sentence failed to deliver complete justice, while calling on authorities to continue investigating to clarify Autumn's potential role as an accomplice. The case closed with an 18-year prison sentence for the gunman, but Tyree Richardson's passing leaves behind endless sorrow for his family and loved ones. In your opinion, is an 18-year sentence for taking the life of a 20-year-old father with 16 gunshots truly fair? Do the unanswered questions surrounding Autumn Anderson's role need further legal clarification? The tragedy of Tyree Richardson is not merely a closed criminal file, but also a brutal picture of the irreversible consequences in modern life. The most painful lesson drawn from this case is the danger of ambiguous, unresolved romantic relationships. Maintaining vague ties, deception, and simmering conflicts that are left unresolved act as invisible tinder. When an outburst of jealousy encounters the presence of a firearm, the boundary between a conversation and a shooting tragedy is measured in a matter of seconds. The case also serves as a chilling warning about the presence of violence and blind recklessness. Out of a moment of impulsivity, choosing to settle a conflict through the barrel of a gun, Terrence Yancey erased his own name from society at the prime of his life. An 18-year prison sentence is a steep price for a ruthless decision, yet it can never replace or compensate for a lost life. Behind the forensic data and court rulings lies lifelong pain. A 20-year-old father is gone forever, leaving behind a young child who will grow up never seeing his father again. Parents endure the devastating grief of outliving their child, living the remainder of their days in remorse and bitterness. Life has no rewind button. Every act of violence, every decision showing contempt for the law and the value of human life leads to tragic outcomes. Keeping a clear mind, recognizing and eliminating toxic relationships, respecting the law and human life. These are not just living principles, but the line between life and death to protect oneself and loved ones. If you find this story worth sharing, please share the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching until the end of the story.